Congratulations, you just picked up your 2023 Diavel V4. What next? Well, we're gonna go over all the electronic bits and a couple of neat little hidden features on this motorcycle, but let's talk about the important thing, breaking the bike in. That's right, we're still breaking motorcycles in, and what that means for you is the first 1,000 kilometers, 620 something miles, you're gonna have to take special care of the motorcycle before you take it in for that first service. Make sure, call your dealership and let them know that you're going to be coming up in a week or so on that first service, depending on your schedule. How do you do your first break-in? It's pretty simple. You can get it overly complicated if you want to, but they give you 1,000 kilometers so you can take the bike through its paces and teach it what it's going to be doing. Show it low load, first gear, high load, sixth gear, and everything in between, and negative load, which is downshift. So ride the bike a lot, have fun in twisty roads and take it through its paces. Don't redline it. You'll notice that if you go past 6,000 RPM, the dash will flash yellow at you and just kind of give you a friendly reminder not to flog on it. But that doesn't mean you have to baby it either. Ride it normal. Obviously, don't take it to the drag strip. One of the things that we always tell people, and we've heard from a lot of good mechanics, is don't drone on the motor. So don't go on a 3-4 hour long highway ride immediately and just sit at sixth gear for ever and ever. You're not teaching it anything. So take it through back roads, a lot of stops and goes, and work on getting that engine nicely ready for a long life with you. Same thing with the brakes, they're brand new, so you want to get them seated properly. So the first couple of times you ride the bike, progressively get the bike to stop. That'll get the pads to seat properly with the rotors, and it'll give you a nice progressive brake feel that'll last a nice long time. Tires are brand new as well, so take it easy on those tires. Pretend like it's raining for the first 50 or 60 miles. Scuff them in gently, and then you're gonna have that nice grippy tire. These Pirellis are amazing, and I'll talk to you about them later. Another big news is that they've gotten rid of the trellis frame that everybody's used to. So, combined weight now is 25 pounds less than the outgoing 1260S model. These all make for a really neutrally handling motorcycle, even with one with such a big wide rear tire on there, which we'll cover here in a little bit. Speaking of accessibility, Ducati's done a lot to make this bike very comfortable. The seats are nice and wide, both from the rider and the passenger. It has a neat little hidden passenger foot peg, which also opens your way to the keyhole to remove the rear seat. We'll go over that here in a little bit. So lots of space here. You have nice wide mirrors that allow you to have a really good view of the world behind you, and cruise control, which lets you kind of go all around and even get on the highway once in a while and just cruise along and relax if you need to. All right, let's talk about passenger comfort and accessibility. You've got this nice wide seat, and there's a neat little hidden thing here. So as I showed you earlier, all you have to do is open the passenger's foot pegs on both sides, but on the exhaust side of the bike, you'll notice the key portal. So key goes in, you unlock, pull up on the seat and push gently towards the tank, and it comes off. Once you take the seat off, there's a little puck right here. You're gonna grab it and pull up. So pull up, and then back here, there's a little spoiler that you pull out, and now the passenger has a grab handle. The seat goes back on, and now there's a little grab handle for the passenger. Kind of a neat little hidden feature that this bike has, and it's unique to it. The 2023 Diavel V4 does come with a rear seat cowl, so if you don't want to give somebody a ride and you want to have that nice finished look, the bike does come standard with it. So whether you get the black one or the red one, it is color matched to your motorcycle, and it's really easily removable by taking the seat out, undoing 2 screws, and just taking it off of there, or leaving it on, depending on what kind of mood you're in. So one of the most exciting parts of the Diavel is the tail end of the bike. It's got that big wide tire, lots of presence, beautiful wheel set that Ducati's made, and really it does have a lot of presence no matter where you go to it. You'll notice in the back it's got a quad exhaust on it to really connotate and highlight the V4 motor in there. One of my favorite things about this rear end is this wheel and tire combo, in that it comes in a 17-inch wheel. It's pretty much the only bike in the industry that has that option. It allows you to have a much rounder tire, so the bike handles much more neutrally than you would think this wide tire would. It's a 240/45 17-inch tire, designed specifically for the bike by Pirelli. It's a Rosso 3, it's a dual compound, so lots of grip on the sides, and it tends to last a long time. The other really neat thing about the bike is that it's got this humongous array of LEDs in the back, so when you grab the brakes, you have a huge amount of lights back here for everybody to see you. It looks really great. It almost looks like 2 hands telling people to stop. You'll also notice this mudguard in the back here. A lot of people are going to want to remove that at some point to show off more of the tire, but It really does a great job of keeping water off your back if you are a all-season rider. But if you're a fair weather rider, you might see some stuff in the future that'll help clear this up a little bit. I haven't seen anything yet, but if I was a betting man, I would bet on that. Another great feature of the bike is that it has a 6-speed manual with a wet clutch that's also a slipper clutch. And it has quick shift for up and down shifting that you can disconnect if you wanted to by just pressing a button that I'll go over later on. And it has launch control on there, which is ultimately a rev limiter that allows you to kind of play with the bike and learn to become a better drag racer if you wanted to go and attend these kinds of things. And we come to the front of the bike. Gorgeous motorcycle, well sculpted, and just again has a lot of presence. A couple of things of note. You have a beautiful set of dual discs up front that are floating discs, fully adjustable shocks up front, nice daytime running lamp that is attached to the bike's light sensor. So when you're out in the brightness like we are right now, it won't turn the headlights on. It'll just have that nice DRLs on. But you've got beautiful bright LED lighting on it, and that same goes for the nicely sculpted turn signals. Okay, let's talk about the controls. As usual, we're gonna go on the right side where the brake and the throttle is. We have a couple of buttons here. The very top one is DPL, it's Ducati Power Launch. That's actually a really fun one if you want to go out to a drag strip and see what this thing's capable of for 0 to 60 launches. There are 3 different modes of DPL, from 1 to 3, lowest to the highest amount of RPM that'll let you have and the power that'll let you use. And like I said earlier, it requires you to still modulate the clutch for first gear to get that perfect launch going. The next button is the on-off emergency button. Below that, there is a little button with a lock on there that you can actually use to turn the bike on and off into auxiliary as long as the key is within about 5 feet of the motorcycle. So there's an actual switch down here below the dash, but you can use this little guy. It's a little shortcut that we have here that we can use. So if you want to turn the bike off, you just hit that and everything powers down. So the little button with the lock emblem on it has 2 functions. One is to turn the auxiliary power on and off. The second one is when you want to turn the bike off, if you hit it to turn it off, it gives you a little warning. If you press it again and hold on to it, it'll actually lock the steering of the bike. It makes a little noise and now we're locked. You can do that on either side of the steering head. So you got to make sure it's turned all the way to the right or to the left and then press that. And if you want to turn the bike back on and unlock it, as long as the key's within 5 feet of the bike, hit the button once, it'll unlock it, we're back in business. All right, let's go to the left controllers. There's a lot more buttons here, so we'll cover them one by one. We're gonna start at the very top. For your trigger finger is your passing switch. If you pull it in, you can just quickly flash people, let them know you're coming up from behind them, and hopefully they get out of the way. If you need to turn on the high beams, you just push forward with your finger. So get your finger behind and push forward, and high beams get turned on permanently. You can tell with the little blue light on the dash that the high beam is on. One of the things that I love about this whole setup is that the buttons are all backlit, so it makes it a lot easier to recognize what you're working with at night if you don't remember where everything is. So coming up above the little passing switch is your hazard switch that gets all the blinkers going on the bike. So 2 in the front, 2 in the back are now flashing to let people know that you're parked somewhere and not to come up on you. And then another button right next to it has a little headlight emblem on there. That's actually if you want to turn the daytime running lights off manually. Now remember, this bike does have a light sensor on there, and it'll automatically turn the headlights on and off for you, depending on if you have that functionality going. So I usually leave it on automatic. It makes it a lot easier, one less thing I have to deal with. On the dash, there's a little green emblem with an A on it to indicate that it is on automatic mode. So that little switch will take it off of automatic and manually turn it on and off for you. The good news is if you have the daytime running lamps on auto preset on the bike, as I'll show you later on, even if you turn this off manually, when you turn the bike on and off, it'll go back to automatic for you just as default. In the center, the meat and potatoes, really lots of buttons here. You can tell everything's got extra writings on there, so there's a little bit of extra functionality. You've got your mode and enter switch and up and down toggle. You've got your cruise control, and just like any other cruise control, has an on and off, a set, and a resume with a plus and minus. When you set cruise control up on this motorcycle, it'll give you an indication that it is on with the exact mile per hour that you've got going on for it. Below that, you've got your turn signals, pretty standard fare on there. So left for left, right for right, and then press the center to cancel it out. And below that is a little horn. All right, let's get into the thick of it. We're gonna talk a lot about the dash and functionality here. And just as a reminder, as I go through the dash, when I tell you I'm pressing enter button, I'm pressing the center button here, and up is up and down is down on this particular set of buttons. We're gonna keep them highlighted for you so you can follow along. But for time being, let's talk about the dash and what's on there. If you're familiar with Ducati motorcycles, especially the most recent 5 years, this is gonna look pretty familiar to you. But if you're not, there's a little bit to take in, and after a couple of minutes of staring at it, everything will make a little bit more sense. So on the Diavel V4 in particular, on the top left, you've got your fuel gauge. Right next to it, you got those little blue lights. That's for the Bluetooth connection. Yeah, my phone is actually connected to this bike, so if somebody was to make a phone call to me, it would actually light up in green and put their name or their number on there so I could look quickly and see who's calling me and decide if I want to answer it or not by pressing the enter button here. Top right, you've got the time. And then as we kind of work our way down, you've got your tachometer, your gear indicator, and then you'll see a little box in the bottom right corner of the dash that is going to have your Ducati traction control, your Ducati wheelie control, ABS, and the quick shift. And it'll let you know what settings they're in currently. So right now the bike is in touring mode and it's been set at 3s across the board, it looks like. Below that you have your engine temperature, and then as we kind of work our way over to the left side of the dash, you've got the little green indicator that I pointed out earlier, which is letting us know that the daytime running lamps are on automatic. It's a little counterintuitive on Ducatis. Green means the DRL is on, not the actual headlight. So if the actual headlight was on, this would actually be grayed out. Next to that, you've got your outside ambient air temperature. And then above that, you've got your, I was actually gonna go into that one. There's a little information center. So in order to go from this to this, we're gonna use the up and down switch. If I wanna go to the top box, I'm gonna hold up for a couple of seconds and you can see it highlights it. If I wanna go down here, I'm gonna hold down for a couple of seconds and it highlights it. And now I can quickly work my way through the trip meter, trip 1, consumption based on trip 1, speed, average speed based on trip 1, how long you've been on trip 1 itself, and then trip 2, current consumption, total miles on the bike, and how many miles range you have left based on how you're riding the motorcycle. And then back to trip 1 again. If you want to cancel out trip 1, you hit the enter button once, and it'll ask you, do you want to reset it? You just tell it yes if you want to, and now everything is zeroed out. So if we scroll back down, trip 1, consumption 1, speed 1, and trip 1 time, they're all on 0. And if you notice, trip 2 is still where it was before, and that doesn't really do anything to these consumption numbers. So if you're on a long ride and you want to kind of see what your overall long ride mileages are, I would suggest using trip 2 for that one, and then trip 1 will help you more with your averages based on each fill up. It's a good way of kind of keeping up with the motorcycle. So if we want to go back up here to where a lot of information is, even though it's a smaller window, we're going to hold up for 2 seconds, and boom, we're up there now. And we can scroll between the phone, the settings menu, and then music. Since my phone is attached to it, I can actually use Apple Music and play with that one. I don't use Apple Music. Ducati does not work with Spotify, so I usually have my phone on a phone mount on my motorcycle, and I can use the quick buttons on the quick access on my phone to change my songs on Spotify. You can also connect your headset to this, and so there would be kind of a 3-way handshake between the motorcycle, the phone, and your headset. It's a really nifty thing to have on here, especially if you're getting phone calls that you want to answer and you just want to quickly look and see who is calling you. It allows you to answer the phone quickly with the enter button here. While we're here, we're going to talk about the modes as well. So your 2023 Ducati V4 Diavel has 3 riding modes. We're going to press this button and hold it down for a couple of seconds, and your riding modes come up. You have Sport, Touring, and Urban. Now, if you notice on the actual dash, it'll tell you a basic idea of where each one of these modes is at. So on Sport, you have power on high, traction on 2, ABS on 2, wheelie control on 2, and quick shift is on. Touring, power is medium. Now, power and medium means the bike still has full power, but that initial roll-on of power is much more gentle. So it's really great if you're just wanting to ride the bike and have the power, but not worry about maybe doing wheelies or having too much power kind of surprising you. And it's a really favorite spot for a lot of our riders, was having the power on medium. Traction's on 3, ABS 3, wheelie control 3, quick shift is on. And then on urban mode, power is low, traction is on 3, which you can actually turn up higher if you want to. ABS is on 3, wheelie control is higher at 4, and quick shift is on. I love urban mode, especially for those of you that live in populated cities and it gets rainy. This is a really great way of just calming the bike right down. It's unbelievable how smooth and how approachable the bike gets with that. And that's one of my favorite things about modern Ducatis with all these different mode selections, is that you can have 3 very different motorcycles under you just with a press of a button. So if we're riding and we want to change the mode, we simply press down on the mode button, we select it. If we're on the power, as I'm going to reach over and show you, if the throttle is on and I select one, it'll ask you to please close the throttle and then it'll go into the next mode. Ducati does that for safety precautions, just to make sure you're not going from low power to high power while you are on the throttle. Let's talk about how we can change those modes. So the beauty of the mode button is that you can have that quick access, but you can go in there and really change the settings on each one of those modes to your own liking as you get to know the motorcycle. So remember, we're up on this higher menu, so we're going to scroll down by pressing down or up, doesn't matter either way, and get to the settings menu. We're going to press enter once. We're going to work our way through all these different things, but right now we're going to talk about the riding mode. So we're going to press once into riding mode, and then we're going to pick which mode we want to play with. So let's say you want to go into the sport mode. Select it by hitting enter once. Ducati does a really great little animation here to show you what you're working with. So you have your power, your traction control, and it lights up the rear tire. Your ABS lights up your brakes. Your wheelie control, it kind of lets you know that's how you keep the front end down. And then your quick shift, which essentially has an on or off. So let's go to power. We're gonna press enter once, and you have high, medium, and low. And as you do this, you're gonna read where it's setting it up for, you know, more relaxed or more full power, or if you want to have full-on performance. So on sport mode, a lot of people enjoy keeping it at high, so we're going to press enter on high, and then it brings us to the back, and then we're going to hit enter again, and now we can roll down to traction control. Now in traction control, you'll notice we have off all the way up to 4. So on sport mode, a lot of people like to have it on 1 or 2. I'm going to put it to 1 because I enjoy it there. Back. We're going to go to ABS. ABS, again, we have 1, 2, or 3. 3 is going to be the most conservative. 1 is going to be the sportiest. So if we hit 1, you'll notice it's letting us know that the rear end does not have ABS. It only has it in the front end. So this lets you kind of play with the bike a little bit more if you're a more advanced rider and know what you're doing. If you want to keep it kind of sporty but keep both ABS on front and rear, just put it on 2. Hit back. And then we're going to scroll down one more to wheelie control. And again, we're going to see that it's got all the way to off, up to 4. Again, most of our sport guys and girls like to keep it at 1 or 2. Some of you are really, really brave and like to keep it at an off. This bike does have a nice long wheelbase on there, so it's not quite as wheelie prone as, let's say, a Monster or a Street Fighter, but it's still a lot of power and it will wheelie if you ask it to do that. So again, for sport bike riders, we're going to probably keep it at a 1 or a 2. Go back, and then quick shift. Pretty simple, it's on or off. For those of you who haven't used quick shift before, it's pretty fascinating. You use the clutch for first gear engagements, and then once you're upshifting, you don't need the clutch anymore. You can just simply shift up, and the bike will do a seamless upshift for you. If you want to downshift, whether you're passing somebody or slowing down, you can slow down the throttle and kick the gear shifter down, and it'll auto rev match for you. So once you get used to it, it really, really makes for a much smoother ride. But if you're old school and you don't want to use that, you can simply turn it off. But I'm going to leave it on because I enjoy it a lot. Now, you'll notice a default button here as well. Every one of these modes have this option. There are no wrong answers in this class. You can mess with this all you want, and if you don't like what you've done, you can simply hit default, and you can see it tells you to wait, and now we're back to factory default. And the same thing goes for touring and urban. You can simply go in there, select your power, traction control, ABS, wheelie control, quick shift, and have some fun with that. So when you get the motorcycle, make sure you are reading your owner's manual as you're following along with this one, and kind of play along and see what you like best about your bike and how you want to set it up for yourself. And that is how you set up the modes. All right, after riding mode, you've got info display. This is the bottom left of your dash, and it's going to go over these little minute details like total mileage, range, trip 1, all the things that I showed you earlier. So you can customize how these are set up for you by selecting enter once and then scrolling up and down to kind of realizing what position you want it to be in. So you've got the 10 different options, and you can select between position 1 through 10 to make it exactly how you want it to be. After you do that, you can simply hit back and go down to your fuel indicator. This will allow you to have either a level or simply a number as to what kind of range you have left to your fuel tank. That's up to you how you want to have it. For some reason, I'm comfortable with the level, so I tend to keep it on that one for my bike. Daytime running lamp. Again, you can leave it on auto or manual. A lot of people love, like myself, to just keep it on auto because then the lights come on and off as the outside light, gets lighter or brighter for me. Display setup. This is kind of a neat spot where you can decide whether you want this to be dark or light all the time. Again, the bike has a light sensor on there, so the dash will go from light during the daytime to a dark during the nighttime. If you rather it was dark all the time, you can simply tell it to be dark or light, or if you like it flap, going back and forth for you, you can just put it on auto. And then in the same display setup, you have the brightness. Again, you can make it brighter or darker depending on your sensitivity and how you like to have that. And then that's your display setup. Next on here is pin code. So the Ducati Diavel, much like the Multistrada, is a keyless motorcycle. So once you buy this, you can modify the pin by pressing here. The factory is going to be 0000. It'll tell you if it's correct or not. And then you can select your new one. I'm going to keep it as 0000 since this is our demo. And then it'll save it. All right, once you've done your pin code, you can go down, you have your lap timer. That's right, it's a Ducati. You can take it to the track and you can turn the lap timer on and off and check out your lap data after your fun track day. We do a lot of track days at Motocourses, so if you have a Diavel V4, come play with us. I want to see this thing on its side. Next, you have your date and time. This just allows you to set the date and time and the format it's in. So you can set the date by pressing enter and figuring out the date, the month, and the year. And so I'm just pressing enter through that and scrolling up and down the select. Time format, date format, day, month, year. In the US, that's how we do it. But if you want to do month, day, year, you can also select that. So we're going to keep it in US format here. And then set the time. Again, I like a 24-hour time format, and Ducati comes like this. So currently it's 7:27, so I'll leave it alone. But if you wanted to change it, you just up and down. And then time format, again, if you want to do 12-hour versus 24 hours. So I like 24 and I'll leave it there. And then next is tire calibration. This is a great spot if you want to change tires to something more aggressive or a different profile that's on the bike. It'll allow the traction control and ABS to learn what's going on. It just takes a split second. You enter it, you tell it to start. It'll ask you to ride the motorcycle X amount of time, and then it'll figure itself out. Bluetooth. All right, so this is if you want to connect your phone to the motorcycle. These do have a Bluetooth module on them, and so you can see what paired devices on them are currently on the bike. So mine's on there right now, but if you want to pair something, you go into pairing, and you can tell it whether you want to do phone, rider one's headset, or passenger's headset, and then you can press enter on that one, and it'll ask you to pair with your phone, and depending on what kind of phone you have, whether it's an Apple or a Google phone, it'll just walk you through the pretty simple setup on how to do that one. Turn indicators. Now, Ducati's turn indicators on a lot of their more recent motorcycles are capable of having an auto off function, so this one has it as well. You can turn that off if you want to, but I love the fact that you can turn on the turn signal, go through your turn, and a couple of seconds later it shuts off on its own. Keep an eye on that, because sometimes I make a mistake of turning on the turn signal and then going to the light and forgetting that it cancels itself. So if you don't like that, put it in manual and then go back. Languages, obviously pick the language that works for you. We're in the US, so English seems to be the major language, so we'll use that. Units is going to be speed, kilometers versus miles, temperature, Celsius versus Fahrenheit, consumption, again, that's miles per gallon US versus English or kilometers. And then if you are, if it's a US bike like ours, if you went to default, it would just simply go to miles and Fahrenheit. And then info, this little bit tells you about battery and how many RPM the bike is sitting at. So if you just have it on, it'll obviously show you what RPM you're at. And that covers your settings menu. As you scroll through this top information, you'll notice that we have settings menu that we just went over, music, again, if you have Apple Music, and phone. I didn't show you the phone part because I haven't actually put my phone information on there, my contact information, but you can let Ducati download that if you want to, and if you press into it, you can see it's empty right now, but you can scroll through there and make a quick call if you need to do it. But since mine is empty, I'm just gonna scroll up to back, and here we are. Other than that, I believe we've covered just about everything else. One other thing that I haven't really pointed out to you, but I'm sure you'll figure out on your own, is if the kickstand is down, it'll tell you, and it'll also show you what speed you're going at. If you have any other questions about this, don't be shy and let me know and I'll cover it for you. Thank you for following along with this tutorial. If you have any other questions, don't be shy, give us a call, 503-292-7488. Don't forget to check out that owner's manual. It's pretty wide because we really kind of only skimmed a lot of this stuff. So a lot of information to be had over there. Hope you have a blast riding your Ducati Diavel V4. I've sure as heck been enjoying this thing, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts about it.